Alva Sequencer, the free version of Alva Sorcerer, provides ETC Eos theatrical lighting consoles with sequence-based editing by allowing Blender's video editor to remotely manage and create console event lists and macros through automation. All right, now we're going to do animation strips. So O, M, A. Now we're in animation mode. So in order to get this to actually control a group, we're going to say group 13. We're going to enable this so that this, if this were not enabled and you were to change this to group 14, it doesn't really do anything automatically. But if you were to enable that, we were to change it to group 15, that automatically updates everything up here. So let's change it back to group 13. Now it changes it all back. Now we can commandeer group 13. I'll zoom in a little bit here so you can see what we're doing. And we can also commandeer, well, color might not work so well because this doesn't necessarily use the right color model yet. It will in the future. It does in Sorcerer, but not over here just yet. But we're lucky this one is RGB, I think. We can also control pan tilt. We can do that stuff. Pan. Boop. Set all those. Now if you have zoom and this slider goes all the way out to 1000, you probably don't want that, so you just set it to whatever the maximum on your fixture is. So the maximum on this fixture appears to be 50. So we're going to take this to 50 and we're just going to hit the plus to make that the maximum. And it looks like the minimum is negative 1000, but I happen to know that the minimum for that fixture is 10. So we're going to set it to 10 and hit the minus. So now you can only go to 50 down to 10. So that's what that does. Same thing with iris. You can use these for pretty much whatever you want. It doesn't have to be iris. It can be gobo wheel, gobo speed, whatever. In order to clear the min maxes, you just hit that. So now it's back to negative 1000, whatever. So 10, min, 50, max. Now we're back. Okay, so that's what that does. I'm going to go to, say, 25. And we're going to keyframe this because we can. So we really need to have the timeline thing open here in order to actually see what's going on. So I'm going to bring in the animation on this tab instead of on that. So select. All right, here we go. We can't really see it, but because I have EOS taking up the entire screen, because EOS needs to take up the entire screen, whatever. So we're going to set this to, say, right here. We're going to keyframe it. We're going to keyframe that, keyframe that. So that's our starting point. We're going to hit play. Now we're going to bring it to 50. And we're going to, did that work? Hello. Group 13, what's going on? Oh, we're probably off a strip. That's probably what happened. So yeah, this only works as long as this playhead is over the strip. So you can see it just worked. So we're going to bring up the formatter, make it longer. There we go. That's much better. So if we go to this keyframe, I don't even know where on earth that is. Let's go all the way over there. So we're going to bring it over here instead. We're going to delete that keyframe. X, delete keyframe. Here we are. We're going to go to the start frame, which is with that. Now we're on the start frame. Now we're going to keyframe it. Intensity, keyframe color, keyframe pan, tilt, zoom, iris. Now we're going to hit play. Okay, and now we're going to bring that all the way down. For the first demonstration, hit keyframe. Now we can see that going down. And we can step through it frame by frame. There we go. And we can make it longer too. It's pretty easy if we only select one of them. There we go. Okay, that was just Augment 3D, not really paying attention. But if I didn't have so many different devices running, so many different softwares running, this would be a lot smoother. But this is a small, fairly cheap computer running a lot of stuff at the same time, so that's partly why that's going on. But you can see, you can step through it and say we want to make the zoom go to whatever, all the way out. Make the zoom, oh, that's the, hold on, that's not zoom. This is zoom. Make the zoom go all the way out, keyframe it. Make the tilt maybe go down a little bit. Keyframe that. Iris down a little bit. Keyframe that. Right, so then you can sort of see it change. And then you can bring up the graph editor, and for that I will make the Blender screen much larger. You kind of do need the Blender. You kind of do need the extra screen space for this part. You're going to make this a graph editor. Right there. Get rid of this dumb side panel. Get rid of that dumb side panel. Here we go. Hit the graph editor button. Huh! I have to fix that. View selected. Frame selected. There we go. And select that. View. Frame all. There we go. Now we have all of our graph editor stuff. So we can like select the intensity. Go right there. Select intensity. I. Only selected channels right there. Grab it. Do whatever we want with it. Now it's going to start going down. If my computer were just completely choked, because I have Audacity running, I have Screen Recorder running, I have EOS Augment 3D running, I have Blender Sorcerer running, I have a lot of stuff running. So it's not exactly smooth, but that's the basic idea. You have control over the graph editor right there. You can do whatever. See it momentarily get a little bit brighter. Not really, but now it's starting to dip again. There we go. So that's basically what animation is. And now in order to actually store this in a way that the console can remember, first of all, you can make it follow a path over in 3D view. That's pretty cool. So you can make a path right here. Like say shift add, curve, Bezier, tab into edit mode, X that, and then bring in the tools. You can make it follow that path fairly easily. This tutorial isn't about that though. But you would do that with this button here, and then you would select a light that is going to then follow the path. So you would do that by creating like a light like this spot, scale it down, get this guy in here, move it over here, and then you would bring in properties, if I can find it, properties. I think it might be too small. Properties, there we go. You would go to constraints. You would make an empty as well. So shift add empty. That empty is going to follow path. It's going to be that path. Now you're going to select the light. And that light is going to do a track to the empty. There we go. And then you can go over into sequencer and select the light right there. And now it'll sort of kind of work, but not really, because you still do have to set it up, but you get the basic idea. Now, in order to get rid of that, we can set those back to where they were. And in order to save this in such a way that it's going to be recordable for EOS, so that we can hit a button on, so that we can just hit a button on EOS and have it play back, we can just go M and say our queue list is going to be 10, our event list is going to be 10, enable queue is going to be queue 20 with macro 20, our disable queue is going to be 21 with macro 21. Doesn't really matter what it is, but we do need to record those queues on here. So record 20, record 21, there we go. And now we're going to say, when we hit the OR button, it is going to step through this entire sequence frame by frame, and then it's going to do it again, because this is the older algorithm. If you do it with Sorcerer, it's a lot faster. But right now it takes a couple minutes. But we're going to hit the one over here to do both. If we were to hit just that button, it only re-records the cues. That's for in case you made an adjustment to the animation. But this one does cues and the timecode stuff. So we're going to hit the... Let's actually zoom this over so that we can see what's going on. We're going to hit M and move this over and hit that button. And we'll watch it step through it all. So what it's doing is it's basically creating a QMEO, which is a video, but instead of it being a picture frame on every frame, it's a lighting cue on every frame. And then it's binding every single one of those cues to a separate event in the event list. Because ETC Eos can't really understand F-curve data. Like, you can't just import a blend file into Eos, obviously, in order to get that animation data. So it does this instead in order to record that on EOS so that you can play it back on EOS without having to rely on Sorcerer or Sequencer during a real show. So now it's going back and it's binding each and every cue to a separate event list action. So that's what it's doing now. If you do this over a much longer strip, it will take a couple more minutes. And then the enable queue, disable queue, that's just a queue that you hit on the console in order to start and stop the timecode clock. Normally you would have to do that manually by creating your own timecode queues to enable the clock, disable the clock, and then you would have to execute it with different queues. But this just does it automatically for you, so you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to learn it. It's always good to learn that stuff, but you don't have to with this software. Okay, now we're done with that. So what we'll do is we will go ahead and do the enable queue with macro. So now it's just building out that macro. Okay, it's done with that one. I'm going to get rid of this tab here. It's kind of annoying. So we can see everything that's going on. Now we're going to do the disable queue with macro 21. Now we can see it. And again, I'm not doing anything. This is all automation. Okay, and it's done. And you'll see that it automatically changed the strip over to macro, and it inputted the macro numbers. So that's so that you can just say go to Q20 over here, go to Q20. It's going to start that animation. And as you can see, that's not because of Alva. That's because of the console. And then you can just hit spacebar to go to disable that. So that's macro 20, then macro 21 to stop it. So that's completely independent of Sorcerer. I can shut Sorcerer completely down, shut Sequencer completely down, and it's not going to do anything. So now I'm going to go shift spacebar so that I can do this in sequence. And here we go. and it should stop. And it does. So as you can see, we do have the marking issues there, but that's okay, as you can deal with that pretty easily. So that's what animation does. You can also do performance capture, which is pretty cool. We're not going to really go into that, but if you were to go into that, you would basically record footage of a laser pointer on the wall, and you would bring that footage into, with music, probably. Then you would bring that footage into here, and you would do motion tracking. And then that motion tracking would ultimately give you an empty over in 3D viewport that is basically the exact same thing as that. And you would just track to it the same exact way, more or less. So you can do performance capture with that same, with the same stuff. So that's pretty cool. I'll just put that in there casually. So that's animation strips.